The one and only Hulk Hogan in our studio. Hulk, it's an honor. Thanks so much for being with us. How are you today?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you, man?
Very good.
Man, we got TNA shirts on in here. We got fans in the lobby. We got books, pictures. Man, I feel like I've got another 100 years on the planet. This is awesome.
First thing I want to bring out is all the greats in life are Italian. Greatest football coach of all time, Lombardi or Paterno. Greatest boxer of all time, Marciano. Greatest quarterback of all time, Joe Montana. And as I read and I found out...
Well, Muhammad Ali was Italian, too.
He was. You are an Italian-American.
Italiano. Yes, sir, brother. My dad was from Abruzzo, Italy, and he met my mom in Panama, and the rest is history.
Are you getting back in the ring? Let's get the important stuff out of the way. We hear on March 8th that you made...
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know how I got into this situation, but I feel like the old gunslinger that put his guns up, and then all of a sudden the bad guys came in town and I had to break the guns out. But I got in a situation where I've been trying to help these young guys and breathe life into their characters, and this one kid named Abyss that just had everything. He had this crazy gimmick. He was huge. He could wrestle. He was coordinated, talented, he had balance, and he was a great human being. And I said, well, you know what, let me give him the Hulk Hogan rub. And as soon as I did that, old Ric Flair and his new protege, AJ Styles, started picking my buddy's bones, and next thing I know, I got in the middle of it. And now, on March 8th, we're going live on Monday nights. We've only got one more Thursday left on Spike TV from 9 to 11. And then after that, the very next Monday, March 8th, we go live on Monday nights, and it's kind of like making history again. It's the WWE Vince McMahon show versus TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling on Spike, and I kind of got myself in a bind where on March 8th I'm actually climbing in the ring in a tag team match. So
against Ric Flair?
Yeah, and it's me and my partner Abyss against Ric Flair and AJ Styles. So the old gunslinger's bringing out the guns. I just got to make sure I get some bullets in the chamber,
That is going to be one of the great moments in sports. You and Ric Flair again in the ring.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. I mean, there's a buzz. Wrestling is fun again. And with TNA, I had a huge opportunity to go back to work. And after a couple crazy years in my personal life and business life, I just had to go back to what I love, the wrestling business, and I had to make a choice. And TNA Wrestling, they've been around for a few years. They've been on Spike TV. They've had an unbelievable presence. The lady that's my boss, the beautiful Dixie Carter, isn't all looks. She's a smart business lady, and she's compassionate, and she's for real. And so anyway, to have the chance, the opportunity to work with her was the choice I made, because I was looking at the WWE. Vince McMahon was trying to get me to come back, and been there, done that. I know the end of that story. And this is the future of wrestling. TNA and Dixie Carter, and just the talent. They're raising the bar, and I just had to be part of it. I wanted to make history again with the business, so I'm here.
We've got a chance to cover Super Bowls and World Series and playoff games and all sorts of great sporting events in St. Louis. But one of the 5 greatest sporting events I ever covered was you and the Iron Sheik at Freedom Hall in front of 20,000. It wasn't called one of the great wrestling matches of all time, but the atmosphere and the electricity in that event was unbelievable. And you're the guy who figured it out. I mean, there may be wrestlers in history who have your physique, can talk as well as you, but your connection with the fans.
There has been?
Well, maybe one or two. How did you figure it out at an early age, connecting with the fans and getting them so involved?
Well, I'd always been a wrestling fan, and it was a kind of a strange transition for me because I played music for many years, and I was on the road, and I was always, in between songs, you have to, mix with the crowd, and you have to have a rapport with the audience, and so you get a little bit of a vibe, when you're talking to people in a club or in a building, and kind of like when I got into wrestling, all of a sudden I felt that same vibe that it wasn't there. The wrestlers would focus on wrestling, and then I'd watch the main event guys when I first get started. And some of the main event guys didn't wrestle as much as the younger guys like myself and didn't do as many moves. But when they did a move, they would actually look to the audience, and the reaction from the audience was just as important as the move. So I said, okay, let me dial this up times 100,000. And so when I started developing the Hulk Hogan persona, I made the crowd just as important as the actual physicalities in the ring. In that formula, I kind of like, hit on the pay dirt, hit on the gold dust. I realized that this is what it's all about, to make the fans vicariously live through the wrestling characters and the persona. So as soon as I knew that I had put my finger on the heartbeat of what this was really all about, I just went at it full speed, dialed it up, made the fans part of me. I was tangible. I made sure that I wasn't some wrestling superstar, like an actor, like Angelina Jolie that nobody sees or touches. I made sure I was part of Americana, which then it rolled me out to be intertwined with society internationally, worldwide. So I just kind of like realized that the fans are the most important part of this business, and I always made them involved in the match. So I figured it out early on, and a lot of guys have caught on. A lot of guys have had short, small bursts, like 3 or 4 years, but I've had this crazy run for 30 years, and the fans still relate to me. And no matter what kind of situation I'm in, good or bad, they are so loyal, it's unbelievable.
And the message, too, was rather family-oriented, too, with, mothers and fathers appreciated the fact that you said, do your prayers, take your vitamins, and stuff like that. It was you had a widespread appeal.
Yeah, well, like attracts like. Like when they say misery loves company, somebody's miserable, they love to have other people miserable around them. And when I started coming out with such a positive message, like attracts like, when I threw that positive message out, it attracted the kids and the parents and the Make-A-Wish kids. Excuse me, and I've learned from that, that is what I want to do on a consistent basis, is just be positive and stay in that zone, of the positivity thing.
When did you get the whole routine, the pointing at the opponent, the shaking of the finger to scold them, the 3 punches, the Irish whip, the atomic leg drop? When did you put that whole thing together, and how did it all happen? Because that became your most famous thing.
Yeah, well, it was kind of like a work in progress, and I found out at the end of the day, if I could work backwards, you can't be afraid to make a fool of yourself out there, because that's what this is all about, is projecting and being larger than life. So I kind of eased into it, and I started, when I'd slam somebody, I'd look to the crowd, and then when I get to the point where I just get tired of getting beat up, I would just come up, and then I slowed that down, and it was a natural progression to the big finger point, and then the big punches and the foot and the leg drop and mug and look at the crowd. And it took me just a little while to dial it in, but it happened over a short period of time. I didn't spend 10 years working on that little, comedy routine there. It was something that once I realized how much the people loved being involved, I turned the volume up quick. So it was within about a 6-month period. And if you notice my first match at Madison Square Garden in the Iron Sheik, with the Iron Sheik, I was kind of feeling my way around. Vince McMahon didn't want music played, and I was the first guy to ever play music, The Eye of the Tiger, which Scotty Brothers quickly took away from me. And you could see me trying to find myself there with the tearing the shirt and the ear to the crowd. I wasn't fully dialed in then, but shortly after, I pushed the button all the way.
Are the Pythons still 24?
I think they're probably about 21. They're still there.
And it was kind of a big deal, but Billy Graham was at 22, and then you went to 24. I remember in the book, you let him know, hey, these are bigger now.
Yeah, I think it was probably the 3rd or 4th or 5th time I'd quit wrestling, And I was in Cocoa Beach, and I was running a nightclub, and I had a gym. And I focused on 1 year, just training twice a day. And I was a dairy product fiend. I would drink a couple gallons of milk, and those old school Dannon yogurts, I'd probably eat 35 or 40 of those a day. And I gained a whole bunch of weight and got my swell on. And I actually remembered before I went out of business, because I was old school, I wouldn't let any girls train at my gym. I thought it was hardcore, like powerlifting training. And I remember about a week before I had to close the doors to the gym, I measured my arms, and they were legitimately 24 inches without cheating. And I called superstar Billy Graham up, who at the time I was kind of like a huge fan of his and a friend, and I said, look, man, I've quit wrestling, and I need to go back to work, and my arms are bigger than yours. He goes, if you're not big, brother, I got somewhere to send you. So that's when I went back, and that's when I kind of stuck with it.
Huh. When did you know that you were going to explode? Because in the book you talk about it was a struggle. You weren't an instant star. You really had to pay your dues and everything. Was there a moment where, wow, I'm going to blow up?